Greetings, the Astro 30 here, yet again, and welcome back to AEL. Now, I've got this Behringer, I think is how you pronounce that brand name, or Behringer. I'm going to continue to call it Behringer. BXL3000, 300 watt, 2-channel bass workstation. Basically, it's a bass amplifier. Let's just get that clear. Features its own 7-band graphic equalizer here, which can be either on or off, so you can just bypass that. Has only one input and it says 2-channel. However, there is 2 gain pots here. You've got gain 1, gain 2, shape and level. So I'm not really sure why there is 2 separate gain channels. It may be for if you wanted to have the amplifier sing at 1 gain without having to play with the master control or disc control, for instance, or you want a little bit more power, so you output from the speaker, so you switch it into the 2nd channel with a higher gain setting. And seeing as the 2nd channel has a different set of controls here, it's got shape and level, so I'm assuming that it may actually be able to provide some form of overdrive as well. I don't know too much about this particular amplifier itself. So here's the FBQ equalizer, as they call it, and 7 bands. You've got 63 Hz, 160 Hz, 315 Hz, 630 Hz, 1.6K, 2.K5, or 2K5 I should say, and 5K. Now, you don't have any higher frequencies there because it's only amplifying a bass guitar. You usually don't have any high frequencies with bass guitar anyway, so that's why there's nothing higher than 5K there. And over the other end here, we've got the compressor control, which you can turn on or off. You've got the ultra bass, which is just a single push button, it's not a latching button. I guess that just gives it more bass boost. And finally the master control, which feels a bit rough. And the headphone socket, and the front panel's dirty, plus the on-off switch. I paid $38.50 from the Glenorchy tip shop for it, parts only. It says, tested safe, but functionality not established. In other words, they didn't really test it, I guess. And that's an issue. The screws are falling out of that. That's the main power inlet, and they've stuck a wood screw in there to hold it, so that is not very electrically safe. There is also a fuse in here, 6.3 amps at 250 volt, 120 volt, 60 Hz, 350 watts. Okay. But yeah, I'm not liking that IEC socket at all. Risk of electric shock, do not open. And I'm just looking to see where this was actually made. It doesn't actually say where it's made. There's a foot switch input and a CD input, so I'm assuming the foot switch is for that channel switching on the front there. We've got effects return send, a line out, and a direct injection out, so they'd be balanced output. The serial number and the date code of the 12th month of 03. So this was made in 2003, but it doesn't actually say where it was made. Apart from this cabinet being really heavy, I'm talking about like 30 kilos here, there is a grill that's supposed to go on here, but I've already pulled it off and taken the screws out the driver to see what's behind it, just so I can see how the unit is built. This is supposed to be set in further. It's actually got the screws removed and pushed forward. But I just wanted to see how this thing was built, and the power amp and power transformer live in the bottom of the cabinet at the corner, and the preamp circuitry is up here, and they've got the primary winding of the transformer with very long wires going up through a hole in the woodwork to the power switch here, and the ISC socket at the back, with no way of disconnecting it. So to service this would be a complete and utter nightmare. And the reason why it's out in the hallway is because there's just not enough room in my room to work on it at the moment. But as I was going to say, the interesting feature of this is you can actually lie it on its back like that at a 45-degree angle and basically turn it into a fold-back type idea, which, yeah, I thought was interesting. So what I need to establish is what's actually wrong with this. Does it even work? Does it turn on? So to figure that part out, I'm going to dig out the dim bulb, a power cord, plug it in with the dim bulb and just see what it does. Right, so I never actually tested the fuse, which I should have done, but we're going to find out in just a moment whether or not anything happens. So it's turned on the wall, the unit is turned off, dim bulb is off, dim bulb on, nothing, unit on. Now the speaker is still connected to the amplifier, so if there's a DC fault on it anyway, that speaker's probably junk. So, well, it powered up, and it is making a noise, and we've got lights on the graphic equalizer there, which appear to be functioning, but it doesn't appear to be good conductivity between the slider and the LEDs. But the dim bulb is glowing quite bright. That works. That works. That works. Alright, let me grab a guitar lead and just touch the end of it and see what it does. Shit. Okay, guitar's hooked up. That pot doesn't feel too good. That's interesting. Well, that's what that does. Makes it sound like an octave. Compressor will. Alright, well, it does actually work. Except this master control leaves a lot to be desired. So we know it works. I probably should plug it into the wall directly. and see if that gets rid of any of that extra noise that's in the background there. Alright, it's plugged in directly now. Huh. Well. Okay, I think it blew a circuit breaker. Not good. No, it didn't blow the circuit breaker, but it did blow the arse out of that fuse. There must be some form of electrical fault there with the amplifier, or it's just that the fuse couldn't handle the inrush current. Yeah, it's definitely a 6.5 amp fuse, but yeah, it just blew. Now fuses don't blow for no reason, so there has got to be an electrical issue with the amplifier itself. Because when it was on the dim bulb, it does draw quite a considerable amount of current when it first turns on. So I'm probably not going to repair this or do anything with it. I will keep it for the parts, because that 15-inch driver there is a 200 watt nominal and 800 watt max 4 ohm speaker, 15-inch. So that'd be useful for something else. But yeah. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to pull it apart and look at how it's built. And then what I'm going to do is put it back together and then just chuck it back in the shed. So that's all that's on the inside of the chassis, is a single circuit board. A very safely insulated IEC socket. And that's basically all there is. There's nothing to it, and there's a rear board back here for the control, the outputs and stuff. Someone in the comments may want to tell me why it may be drawing so much current to the point where it will blow the line fuse as soon as it's plugged in. But they said it tested electrically safe at the tip shop, but how they tested it, I don't know. Did they just put it on a meter and make sure that it wasn't direct short or something? I don't know. But it's obvious they didn't plug it directly in, otherwise it would have blown the fuse. But yeah, so that's just the preamp section there. It's not really much to talk about. There's the giant 15-inch Behringer, I think is what it says. Classic tone bass series. 800 watts max. It's a 15B 800A4. 15-inch low frequency transducer, as they call it. Nominal impedance is 4 ohms. It's a nice large magnet too. So if anything, I've got a decent speaker. And that's the power amp in there. And there's some bass reflex ports here at the back as well. There could be a fault with this amplifier module too, as to the reason why we blew the line fuse, but anyway. The output devices look like they go through here, because there's the screws for it, and here's the ends of the transistor leads. However, they're not marked whether they're collector, base, emitter or gate, source, drain, so I'm not sure if it's a MOSFET or a just bipolar transistor. Hefty rectifier diodes here, and a lot of cobwebs and dead spiders and shit in here. And a very decently hefty piece of aluminium finned heatsink here. That cheap Chinese underrated rubbish here. There's 3 devices up here. I'm not sure if they're transistors or regulators. They're regulators. 7815, 7915 and 7805 respectively. So it's got 2 plus minus 15 volt regulators and a 5 volt regulator. The 5 volt regulator is probably for some of the effects parts of the preamp. I mean, you can unplug the speaker and the power transformer from the board, and the preamp board from the main board, but you can't actually disconnect these mains wires from the top. So that's annoying. Why you would build it that way, I do not know. Rather beefy looking transformer there, probably 300 VA, so that should not have blown the fuse. And a daddy long legs there. I'm going to have to vacuum the inside of the cabinet out before I put it back in the shed, even though it's going to collect more. That's just the part number from Behringer and the date for the transformer, but it doesn't actually say what the voltages outputs are. And interestingly, before I end this video, I have managed to actually find the schematic to this monster. This is the main preamp section, and it doesn't show the graphic equalizer. That's a separate schematic. But yeah, it's just a bunch of op amps, actually quite a lot of op amps. And yeah, there's not much really to speak about here. We've got a balanced DI out here, as I said it was, and there's all the compressor circuitry, the master circuitry, the boost and cut stuff, the two gain channels, and what looks like a voltage regulator over here to give minus 15 volts and plus 15 volts. Interesting, even though it's got the regulators on the main power amp module. And the next schematic here is the graphic equalizer section, and those are the LEDs on the potentiometer sliders, driven by their own independent little transistor here. The foot switch input and etc., and that goes back to the other piece schematic, and it's using a 74HC74, so that's probably, yes, what the plus 5 volt rail is for. Is for that little IC there. And this is the main power amplifier and power supply circuitry. Now there's two revisions here, revision F1 and revision E, I believe. But if I just zoom in a bit, see there's a couple of pots here that you can adjust for adjusting the biasing point of the output, and it's just using a 15032 and a 15033 respectively bipolar transistors, so it's not a MOSFET amplifier. It employs an op amp here as the differential input stage, as well as over here. This may be the voltage driver stage, and this is the actual differential input stage. So over down here is the power supply section. We've got the main plus B, the plus 15, the minus 15. Now it's showing using transistors. And over here is actually the voltage regulators for that and the 5 volt one. Let me open the other schematic that of the same thing, which is revision D, and it doesn't really look much different from the first. Got the same power amplifier design here, 15032, 15033, bias adjustments, and that's probably a DC offset adjustment, maybe. Be something probably to do with that. And looking at this schematic, I can't see any reason why that fuse in the power socket would have blown like that. The only thing I can think of is the inrush current is too great, but then however, it has been used in this country before. It hasn't blown, unless there is a fault, like in this power amplifier, that's just drawing too much current when it first powers up. It's a possibility. So yeah, it's pretty basic amplifier. What I'm going to do with the unit, I have no idea. It's a shame that it just blew the line fuse. The only other thing I can think of with it blowing the line fuse is maybe it's been set to the 120 volt winding instead of the 240 volt winding, and someone's messed around with it. I don't know. But then again, it's in this country, so you would think that it was wired correctly. Otherwise, it wouldn't work. So, buggered if I know. But as we saw with the dim bulb, it was glowing quite bright, at least half brightness anyway, so it was drawing quite a considerable amount of current when it was idle. It must have something to do with inrush current on the transformer. Anyway, let's close this one out. So unfortunately, I am not going to do anything with this. repair wise, I'll keep it for the parts, because yeah, I don't know why it blew that line fuse, unless there's a fault with the amplifier, which is probably mainly on this main board down here. So yeah, that's unfortunate, but at least we can see how it's constructed. And we did actually get sound out of it on a dim bulb, but it won't work directly on the full line voltage for whatever reason. So yeah, as I say, I'm not going to go too much further with this. So anyway, I'm going to put it back together, put the grill back on, and put it away back in the shed. So if you enjoyed this video, please remember to go down below, like, comment, subscribe as usual. And as usual, this is the Astro 30 saying, see ya, have a great day, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.